discretion is advised.
What's one thing your partner doesn't know? That her mom called for her the moment before she died. When her mom was dying, she was in the room with her for almost 24 hours straight and left for 30 seconds, and I was there, and in those 30 seconds her mother died, but not before calling for my wife. I don't know if it will haunt her or not, but I just don't think it's something she needs to know. She suffers from depression, and when she hits a slump she feels like laying in bed and doing nothing. Even though 99.9% of the time just getting out of bed and doing something, anything will make a dramatic difference in her day. So usually when she hits a slump I'll manufacture some fake emergency that only she can help me solve. Like, hey babe, I think one of the cats has a scratch on his face, but he won't hold still for me to look. Of course, the cat is fine, but I just tricked her into getting out of bed and doing something. And that's always the hardest part. Edit didn't expect this to blow up. Reading all the replies and crying happy tears. Thanks Reddit strangers. This honestly is the one that made me tear up. I have days like that all the time. And it's always that first movement. The first action of the day that's the hardest to do. Sometimes I'm lucky and something happens to where I have to do a thing. Most of the time, no dice. Imagining someone doing that for me nearly made me cry. You are a wonderful and caring person. Even if she realizes what you're doing or even knows, just know those small things mean the world to her. My wife is the biggest softie for animals, and we have birds that nest right in a column on our porch. One day a baby bird fell out and she saw, well, it ended up dying. But I buried it and told her that I saw the mama bird come down and get it. It made her day so much better that I haven't had the heart to tell her it died, and probably never will. I also distract her whenever I see roadkill coming up, or tell her it was just a plastic bag or something. Whenever we get fast food to go, she enjoys eating the extra fries which have fallen out of their carriage and into the bag. I'm not really sure why she enjoys them so much, but whenever there aren't any, I drop a few down when grabbing my fries secretly and then give her the bag. It's been 8 years, haha. I always grab my fries last, and she's never noticed. Holy cow. After all of these comments, I'm definitely getting a burger and fries tonight. When we watch movies together we always snack. One of our favorites to munch on during the movie are the sour punch bites. She takes all the blue ones because I don't like them, and they are her favorite. Always says how lucky she is that worked out like that. The blue ones are also my favorite, but she can have them. He doesn't know just how excited I get when he gets home. I just love being around him. The dogs can hear the garage door open better than I can, so I use them as a sort of notification that he's here. But he also doesn't know how to shut the duck-eyed kitchen cabinets. The number of times I've almost brained myself because I stood up and the corner of a door was right above my head is absurd. That I know our daughter's Reddit account, and that I check in on her regularly. I feel deep, profound guilt about following her, because while I respect her privacy I know that she has significant physical and emotional issues. She's at college out of state, and battles with clinical depression and an unusual and incurable chronic illness, and she really tries not to let onto the world when she's going through a rough patch. She'll make a comment or post something that lets me know that she's feeling crushed or broken, and I'll coincidentally reach out to her the next day and give her an opening to talk about anything that's bothering her. Most of the time it works, and she'll vent for a while and feel a little better. Some of the time we just trade pictures of cats. Either way, she knows that she's loved and that someone is thinking of her. If I told my wife about this, she'd blow the whole thing up, and like a bull in a china shop she'd make it pretty clear that she knew our daughter's account and immediately interject herself into our daughter's life so she could fix everything. I understand that, because my wife is brilliant and protective and only sees the world in black and white. But I also understand that my daughter has to fix her own life and that she's doing it every day. But that it doesn't hurt to have someone text her out of the blue and tell her a dad joke and try and make her laugh while she's doing it. I wrestle with the idea that I'm simultaneously a bad parent and a bad husband because of this. I've been married for almost 30 years. And this is the only thing I've ever kept from my wife. I hate it. But it's a hole I dug for myself. So I have to sit in it alone. Very early in the relationship, after the second date, his monitor broke right on Sunday. I knew he was an avid gamer. So I quickly bought a 27 monitor on eBay and told him I had that laying around. While he was on the way to me, I power walked through half the town to get it and quickly changed clothes because it was drizzling. He had low income and no money, and I didn't want him to feel like he's in my debt. We're over 2 years together now. If he's out of town, I go completely feral for the first 1 or 2 days. Candy for breakfast. Falling asleep in the couch. Beer with dinner on a weekday. Clothes on the floor. Recycling bag overflowing. Then I shape up. When he comes back, everything's back to normal. But man, does it feel good to be a sloppy pig sometimes. That I don't need to read aloud. My girlfriend struggles with insomnia, but for some reason, when I talk to her late at night, she passes out almost immediately. So whenever I read a book, I read out loud softly under the guise that it helps me focus. It works every time. Edit. Holy shit, thanks for all the awards. I was definitely not expecting this to blow up. Update: she found the post after digging for it. She thought it was super sweet. When I shower, she thinks I make an absurdly loud noises when I'm washing my butt. Really, I'm just squeezing water in my palm. But it's much funnier that she thinks it's my butt. Even done this while we were both in there to really get her going. My husband's single parent brother committed suicide, and his daughter wanted to make the urn by hand. And so my husband stayed up all night with his niece constructing and wood burning a beautiful urn. I've never personally experienced such a raw tragedy before. The family fell apart, and later, the coke-addicted mother won custody. At the funeral, the director came out and told my husband's stepfather that the urn did not fit all of the ashes, and that he still had some left in the bag. The stepfather said, "I think it's best if we just throw the rest away." Only I overheard that, and at the time I was too out of it to intervene in any way, or say that his mother or brother should have made that decision. Now the daughter and mother fight over the urn, not knowing that half of him was already thrown away without a thought. It's the only major secret I have from my spouse, and I think I'm going to take it to my grave. For a period of time, when we were toddlers, he lived directly behind me. He remembers a little girl coming outside like twice. I hate the outdoors, and loves the fact that it was his future wife. He tells the story all of the time. At the age he mentioned, I didn't lie there. I was a bit older when we moved in. It was another little girl. Wish I did though. The story makes him so happy, so I will forever be that little girl he saw in her backyard a couple of times when we were 3. Boyfriend has financial struggles. Not because of anything he's ever done. His mother is mentally unwell and his father can't work for various reasons. He's been the sole provider for his family since he was a teen and has to balance his job on top of being the top 5% in his university cohort to maintain 2 scholarships. He had to put his mom in a psychiatric hospital by himself when he was 19. He had no support from relatives except his grandma, who doesn't have an income herself but tries her best. He currently is raising his younger brother and paying rent for the both of them. He acts strong about it, but he gets financial panics very often. In comparison, my family isn't rich, but we are definitely lucky enough to be comfortable. My parents pay my tuition, but I still work part-time teaching because I don't get any pocket money and I also enjoy it. I'm a very frugal person though, so a lot of it just gets saved up. So, sometimes I secretly transfer some money into his account. I pretend to borrow his phone and delete the SMS notification off of it. He's never noticed. It's not a lot of money, but I like to think it helps him get a little bit of extra something. Edit: some people are questioning the validity of this, because if he's poor wouldn't he check his account more often? Which I understand. But I know him and you don't. He tutors biology and chemistry for the IB diploma. He works both freelance and with an agency. He currently has easily more than 20 students. Or even more, I think. Most tutoring jobs here pay by the session. Except big agencies. Also, a lot of parents prefer to pay differently. Most choose to pay after every lesson, but some pay monthly in advance or at the end of every month. So it's not like most jobs where you definitely get a set amount of money by dates. If you have, for example, 19,373 not used dollars, much smaller currency, and he's going to remember that he has around 19,000. Obviously it's sus if I suddenly top up to 20,000, so I do it in small increments. On top of that, because of his job nature, he frequently gets paid payments of 230, 500 again, not used dollars several times on certain days. Also, the payment platform we both use censors names with asterisks. It's not like he checks the platform anyways, because it's just easier to check the SMS, which I can delete. And yes, I also hide physical cash in his backpack. My kid had made me a heart type thing at school and wanted to give it to me. I told him it was great, but that I always get the stuff he makes from school. Instead, he should put my GF's name on it cause she'll love it. He gave it to her and she melted. She's got it on the fridge and has been showing it off for 2 weeks to friends and family. She keeps saying stuff like it was so nice he thought of me and he spelled my name right and he's so sweet and on and on. It'll just be me and his secret. He does not know that he was my teenage crush since I was 12 and I wrote so many beautiful poems on him. We have been married for 6 years and have a child together. I don't know if I will ever have the courage to tell him that I have always loved him. He knows because I tell him a lot, but I don't think he fully understands how much I love and rely on him. I don't think he could know without being in my head, but I have pretty acute anxiety. I know enough about my anxiety to know when I'm freaking out over nothing. So I try to keep it mostly contained to my own brain and keep the external freakouts to a minimum. Just his presence keeps me grounded and calm. He is my best friend and I don't know if I could have accomplished most of what I have without him. My wife is prone to nightmares and often whimpers or screams in her sleep when she has one. I can reassure her without waking her and get her to feel safe enough that she makes happy little cooing noises while she's still sound asleep. I've been doing this for her for over 30 years. I try to give her the better half of life. If there are 2 pieces of pizza left and 1 piece is burnt, I'll take the burned one. She gets the good piece. If I'm going to shower and there's 1 normal towel left, I will use a hand drag or something to dry off. She gets the towel. If there's that unwanted end of the bread loaf, I'll make myself a sandwich using that sad end piece. I'll then make her sandwich with the good pieces. I do this all the time for the smallest things. She never knows. I try to make her life better in those small ways. My father-in-law got a bloody nose at our wedding reception because he thought it would be okay to grind his crotch on and whisper "I've been dreaming of ducking you all night" to my mom on the dance floor. My mother-in-law saw the whole thing with many others, hence the bloody nose. I'm fairly certain my wife does not know. Edit: my mother-in-law punched him. I'm just happy I can still form sentences about this. Apologies for the word salad. I didn't say "I love you" first. I had said "I love it" referring to her laugh, and she misheard me and responded with "I love you too." We had been dating for almost a year at that point and I realized there was no point correcting her since I did actually love her. 8 years and a wedding later and she still doesn't know, and I'll probably take it to my grave. How to mate with knight and bishop. What a ducking noob. Edit: I'm gonna dump my beginner's chess advice here due to many requests. It's not much effort to get over the initial hump. If you're not familiar with basic tactics, do the training modules on lichess. Link. The Building Habits series on the Chess Bra Extra YouTube channel will teach everything to get you a good handle on the game. Ideas for most any position. Taught by a grandmaster. Very long and illustrates everything he advises as he climbs the rating ladder. Lichess Puzzle Streak Storm. They're relatively straightforward and great to cement tactical pattern recognition. Practice them a lot. Do a few hours of mate in one puzzles until they're too easy to be valuable. Play 15 minutes with increment or longer. Learn to use a lichess analysis board. Chess subs are active. When we worked together, someone kept stealing food from my husband's lunchbox. He started deliberately packing more food. He assumed the person was stealing food because they were hungry and couldn't afford it. I found out who did it. She hated him and was doing it to try to piss him off. I told her if she did it again I would make a big stink of it, but never told him because I didn't want to shatter his illusion that he was doing a nice thing for someone who really needed it. Update: I think I need to fess up tonight and let him know. So many people who aren't me think he's a treasure. I may not fit in the house with how big his head is going to get after that though. How good she looks. She's in her early 40s and has had 2 children and gained the quarantine 15. She is so upset with her appearance, but she looks ducking amazing. I tell her daily how attractive she is. I can't take my eyes off her. She doesn't believe me when I tell her she's perfect. That I'm over 4 years sober. You think they would have noticed. But when I started going to AA at lunch at work after a hard year of trying and failing, sobriety finally stuck. I had been sober a month and she accused me of being drunk again, and that I was obviously sneaking alcohol and clearly I was hungover, and that I was a loser who would never get his shit together. I thought, well, I won't say anything and work on myself until even she will notice. So I did. I stayed sober. I got fit. I ran a marathon. I got therapy. I got treatment for what turned out to be adult ADD that had gone undiagnosed for 51 years. I started antidepressants and generally turned my life around. She never noticed, and I'm regularly accused of being a lousy drunk by her. About every other week or so. I'd say it hurts, but I'm in such a better place now that I truly don't give a shit what a toxic person like that thinks, which makes her even more negative. I've stayed married to her for 26 years, but I don't think I'll make it much farther. My wife thinks I always fall asleep next to her. When we cuddle at night we go to bed at different times, but I jump in for a few minutes to snuggle before she zonks out. I don't. I just fake it. But it makes her super happy, so every time I pretend to drift off and she has to wake me, and it makes her laugh every time. This has been going on for 9 years. She'll never know. Edit: will this blow up? Thanks for the awards, folks. How many cups of water per cup of rice? I swear I've been asked that question at least 1k times over the last 15 years. Edit: MFs, I know the water to rice ratio. I don't need guidance, lol. Thank you for your devotion to the cause though. I also have written it on the container and put cheat sheets in various places. It eventually gets washed off or falls down and we are back at the beginning. Edit: not buying a rice cooker. Last thing I need is another single-use device to store when a pot works just as well, and I refuse to back down on her eventually remembering the ducking ratio. Edit: everyone keeps suggesting using finger method. I do that, and the question changes from how much water to which knuckle did you say. Come on now, laughing my butt off. My husband's birthday is Christmas Eve. Unfortunately his birthday gets forgotten a lot. The first year we were married almost no one remembered, and although he claimed it didn't bother him, I could see that it really did. So now I send out a text first thing on the morning on Christmas Eve, and all everyone to take a moment to wish him a happy birthday, and explicitly stated that no one is to let him know that I've sent out the text, almost 12 years in, and he hasn't found out. Probably how dark my thoughts get. She knows I can get depressed, but I don't think she really understands how far it can go. Edit: guys, you're all awesome for the positive responses and the consideration you've shown. Thank you. I have a counselor and have been speaking to her for months. She's incredibly good, but it's a long-term recovery process. I figure it took me years to get the way I have, so it's going to take a long time to get out of it. My other half knows I struggle, but she's not like me, and I think you can only really empathize with someone like that if you've lived it yourself. So I'm grateful that she doesn't fully understand. I wouldn't want her to know how hopeless I've felt and none of the things I've considered, because I'll never do that to her out my family. Thanks once again. She left her mentally and physically abusive drug addict XVF for me. He was always showing up places she would be, or randomly showing up at her house with no good intentions. She asked me not to get involved, so I respected her wishes for a while. Then he tried to break into her home one night while everyone was asleep. He got caught, made a run for it, and keyed her car on the way out. Shortly after it happened, I was informed by a witness to the events. The witness expressed to me at that time they were scared because they knew the XBF had physically beaten her in the past and had recently tried to beat her again as well. GF called me that night also, but told me it was okay now and not to worry. For the next week I staked out her house at night in case he tried again. I also found out where he lived, worked, hung out, and his routes to such places. I observed him and tracked his schedule. I waited for him to try something again, and he came back to try and break in. Added security measures prevented him, and after trying other ways, he left. He rode his bike down an isolated dirt path every morning as a shortcut to work. I waited, and when I saw him, I blocked off his path with my vehicle. I beat the living shit out of him and destroyed his bike. I told him if he even came near her again, even by accident, he wasn't going to walk away from it an empty threat. I would have just roughed him up more at best. I also told him I recorded him trying to be into her house and damaging her property. I also read out to him in explicit detail his schedule and routines. I told him if I even thought he was sniffing around her again, I would find him. We never heard or saw from him again. We have been together for nearly 2 decades now. Very happy, successful, and much so in love still. I swear I'm not a psycho, lol. I'm not possessive or an aggressive person. Everyone calls me a big teddy bear or a big softie. I grew up in an abusive home and have zero tolerance for any type of abuse. I'm just hypervigilant and detail oriented, lol. I'm actually really sad he didn't acknowledge Valentine's Day yesterday. This is really unlike him. It made me feel sad and unimportant, but he's in the middle of some major life changes, so I'm trying to cut him some slack and not make it a big thing. It definitely didn't feel great that he didn't think to stop playing video games for 10 minutes to run and get a card. I love romantic gestures and he isn't ordinarily good at them, so he usually uses Valentine's Day as the day of the year where he speaks my love language. Bums me out that I missed out on it this year. That I would basically fall completely apart without her. I'd never be able to keep a clean house, pay my bills on time, and I would most likely drink myself to death or just end it if she wasn't around to keep me grounded. I always say that you should do and believe in whatever you must to wake up every morning without spiraling into depression in what can be a very unfair and cruel world. She's my reason for getting up every morning. I'd be totally lost if I didn't have her in my life. Click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.